The man who once mopped the floors now stood at the head of the table. The arrogant CEO, who had spent years looking down on him, stared in shock, his face drained of color. The room was silent, the weight of the moment crushing. "Allow me to introduce myself properly," the man in the suit said, sliding a stack of documents across the table. "I now own everything." But what led to this moment will shock you even more. Let's start from the beginning. The sun had barely risen over Manhattan, casting an orange glow through the towering glass buildings. Inside the sleek, modern headquarters of Summit Technologies, CEO Luke Robertson sat in his lavish corner office on the 40th floor. His office was a monument to power, floor-to-ceiling windows, dark mahogany furniture, and a bar stocked with the finest whiskey. Luke, a 50-year-old white man with slicked-back silver hair, wore a tailored gray Armani suit and a platinum Rolex on his wrist. He sipped his whiskey leisurely, barely glancing at the reports on his desk. A knock on the door. Without looking up, Luke muttered, "Yeah, come in." The door opened, and Marcus Wilson, a 60-year-old black janitor, stepped inside. He wore a navy blue work uniform with the Summit Technologies logo embroidered on the chest. His short graying hair was neatly trimmed, and his dark brown skin bore the quiet strength of a man who had worked hard all his life. He carried a mop and bucket, ready to clean before the morning rush. Luke barely acknowledged him. "You, careful with that mop," he said, voice dripping with disdain. "This is a billion-dollar office, not some filthy subway station." Marcus paused for a moment but remained composed. "Yes, sir. I'll be careful." Luke scoffed, taking another sip of his whiskey. "Careful? Please, you people never get anything right." He chuckled, shaking his head. "It's funny how you guys think cleaning up after real men is some kind of career." Marcus's grip on the mop tightened, but he said nothing. Luke smirked and reached into his wallet, pulling out a crisp $100 bill. With a flick of his wrist, he tossed it onto the floor near Marcus's feet. "There, maybe buy yourself a real outfit. Or, better yet, use it for something useful, like food." Marcus looked at the bill on the floor but didn't move. Instead, he lifted his gaze to Luke, his expression unreadable. "Money doesn't make the man," Marcus said calmly. "Character does." Luke let out a sharp laugh. "Character? That's rich, coming from a janitor. Get out of my office before I call security." Marcus gave him one last measured look before turning and walking away, leaving the bill exactly where it had fallen. Luke smirked and leaned back in his chair, shaking his head. "Damn fool," he muttered. But he had no idea what was coming. 3 days later, the Summit Technologies boardroom was filled with tension. The city skyline loomed outside the massive glass windows. But inside, all eyes were on Luke Robertson, who sat at the head of the long, polished table. Luke tapped his fingers against his coffee cup, his sharp blue eyes scanning the worried faces of his top executives. "Somebody explain to me," he snapped, "why all our projects are on hold. Why the hell can't I access the company's financials?" Silence. No one dared to speak. Luke's jaw tightened. "Well?" he demanded. "Who the hell is this new investor everyone's whispering about?" The boardroom doors swung open. Luke turned, ready to tear into whoever had interrupted him, and froze. Standing in the doorway was Marcus Wilson. But this wasn't the janitor Luke had mocked. Marcus now wore a tailored navy blue suit, a crisp white shirt, and a gold Patek Philippe watch. His posture radiated quiet authority. Luke blinked. "What the hell is this?" Marcus walked to the head of the table and placed a sleek black folder in front of him. His deep brown eyes locked onto Luke's. "Allow me to introduce myself properly," Marcus said, his voice calm but commanding. "My name is Marcus Wilson, and I am now the majority shareholder of Summit Technologies." A stunned silence filled the room. Luke's fingers twitched, his world tilted. "That's impossible," he muttered, his voice hoarse. Marcus tilted his head slightly. "Is it?" Luke shot up from his chair, his face red with fury. "You're lying," he spat. "You're a damn janitor." Marcus didn't flinch. He simply opened the folder and slid a stack of official documents across the table. Luke's hands trembled as he picked them up. His heart pounded as his eyes scanned the words. Stock transfer agreements, investment reports, legal confirmations. It was all real. Marcus owned Summit Technologies. Luke's breath came in short, angry bursts. "This is a joke," he growled. "You set me up." Marcus steepled his fingers. "No, Luke, you set yourself up." He tapped the papers. 15 years of unethical business practices, firing employees without compensation, manipulating investor reports, and stealing corporate funds. Luke's blood ran cold. You can't do this," he stammered. "I built this company." Marcus leaned forward slightly, his expression unreadable. "And I own it now." Luke clenched his fists. "You'll regret this," he hissed. Marcus let out a quiet chuckle. "Oh, I already paid the price," he said smoothly. "I paid it the day I mopped your floor and you threw money at me like I was less than human." He gestured to the door. "Now, it's time for you to leave." Luke froze. For the first time in years, he had no power. Security guards appeared at the doorway. Luke's shoulders slumped. His face, once full of arrogance, now looked defeated. With no other choice, he picked up his briefcase and walked out of the boardroom, a broken man.